Elisabeth Leseur and her husband Felix have one of the most moving marriage and conversion stories in modern Catholic history. It was a favorite story of Bishop Fulton Sheen, who often retold it as an example of the power of hidden holiness. Elisabeth was born in Paris in 1866 into an educated, cultured Catholic family. She was intelligent, joyful, artistic, and deeply loved beauty. She married Dr. Felix Leseur in 1889. They genuinely loved one another and enjoyed a happy marriage in many ways, but they were never able to have children. Early in their marriage, Felix gradually abandoned the Catholic faith and became a militant atheist and one of the leaders of France's anti-clerical movement. He wrote against Christianity and surrounded himself with skeptical intellectuals. Rather than weakening Elisabeth's faith, his attacks had the opposite effect. She began studying scripture, theology, philosophy, church history, and apologetics in great depth so that she would truly understand what she believed. The more she studied, the more deeply she fell in love with Christ. She realized that arguments would never convert her husband. Instead, she chose another path. Pray, love, suffer patiently, never ridicule him, never return hostility with hostility, quietly become a saint. She once wrote that the only convincing argument would be holiness. This became the guiding principle of her marriage. She faithfully attended Mass, received the sacraments, practiced charity in secret, and cared for the poor, often without Felix even realizing the extent of what she was doing. She suffered from serious illness for years, eventually developing cancer. Rather than wasting her suffering, she deliberately offered every pain for the conversion of her husband. Throughout all of this, Felix never stopped loving her as his wife, even though he thought her faith was misguided. Near the end of her life, she made an astonishing prediction. She told him something to the effect of, "When I die, you will become a Catholic and even a Dominican priest." Felix thought this was impossible and essentially laughed it off. Elisabeth died on May 3rd, 1914, at only 47 years old. After her death, Felix found her journals and personal writings. For the first time, he discovered how profoundly holy she had become, how much she had loved him, that she had spent years praying specifically for his salvation, that she had consciously offered her illness for him. He was deeply shaken. Still unconvinced, he decided to investigate the famous healings at the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes, intending to expose them as frauds and superstition. But while praying, almost reluctantly, at the grotto, something completely unexpected happened. God touched his heart. Felix later described receiving the gift of faith. The man who had spent years attacking Christianity suddenly believed. He returned to Paris completely changed. He reconciled with the Catholic Church. Then, instead of hiding his wife's writings, he published her journals and letters so that others could benefit from her spiritual wisdom. Those works touched countless readers, even to this day. More astonishingly, in 1919, he entered the Dominican order as a novice. In 1923, he was ordained a Dominican priest. For the remaining decades of his life, he traveled, preached, and testified to the holiness of the wife whose prayers had obtained his conversion. One young priest who heard his story on retreat was Fulton Sheen, who would later recount it to millions through his preaching and broadcasts.